Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ann Cole, and I am the Executive Director of the Maryland Federation of Art. And I am happy to welcome you all to the award ceremony for our first member show of the year, our winter member show. And today's call is an exciting one, not just because we are announcing our awards winners, but after the awards are announced and the art is discussed, we are pulling the names for our Melange exhibits, which will be held in March. And just to let you know, for those that aren't familiar with Melange, it is one of our ways that we can say thank you to our member artists. Each of the persons who is eligible to have their name entered in the lottery for Melange, they volunteered time. They donated to Collector's Choice, our annual fundraiser, and they entered at least one of our shows in 2022. So we're excited to be able to pull their names today after the awards are announced. But let's start out with the awards. And in order to do that, I need to introduce our juror, Scott Hutchison. Scott is a figurative artist, as you can tell from his amazing studio behind him. He received his bachelor's in fine arts from Drake University and his master's in fine arts from George Washington University. He is currently an associate professor of practice in painting and drawing at Georgetown University. And in addition to what you can see behind him, you can find examples of his work and more about him at scotthutchison.com. So with that, Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we're going to go ahead and get the slideshow started.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I want to thank you for inviting me to jury and award artists for this winter show. It was a pleasure, total pleasure. So shall we go with the artist statement first? It was a pleasure to be this year's juror for the MFA Winter Member Show and review a wide range of submissions from talented artists working in various mediums. The selection process was difficult as the quality of the work was consistently high, making it challenging to narrow down the selection to a cohesive and compelling show. Over 300 works were submitted, and I was particularly struck by the diversity of styles and subjects. All combined, this number represents countless hours of hard work and creative exploration, which produced so many stunning pieces. The final result is a show of 55 unique works, so that was quite a curatorial process, and with a vast range of artistic talents within the MFA membership. I chose pieces that demonstrate a strong command of the medium, a unique perspective, and a clear artistic vision. I was particularly drawn to work that contained a conflict or a visual effect that complemented the artist's vision. A visual effect can be any number of qualities, such as a bold or smoothly applied brush mark, or an experimental play of scale, texture, colors, and lighting. My final selections were based on what I perceived as the idea being communicated by the work and how that effect was used to give it life. My intention was to choose a broad range of subjects and a broad range of approaches and highlight the work that best engages with the viewer, me, in concept as well as the medium. Hopefully, this sparks a dialogue between art and the viewer. One of the things that I love most about this show is the way it highlights MFA's membership. It's from traditional mediums like painting and drawing to more experimental forms like digital art and mixed media. I'm honored to have played a role in selecting the works for this show, and I can't wait for you. If you haven't yet, I can't wait for you to see the work on display at the Circle Gallery.
So I'm excited to announce the very first award. As I think most of you know, with all of our member shows, we have a lovely couple who have contributed significantly to our organization, Susie and Rob Conley. And for every member show, they choose and award the Conley Award. And so for the winter member show, they have chosen David Pretz, Across the Sands of Time. This is a 3D printed ceramic. It is a very large piece in the gallery and is incredibly striking. So I think it fits well within the Conley's vision of wanting to recognize 3D art as part of our member shows.
I have given 3 honorable mentions, and one is to, again, we're seeing David Prett's work, Across the Sands of Time. It's a great piece. It's a fascinating image and deserves recognition, I think. The undulating forms, I really enjoyed those and how they move and swirl in an aesthetically pleasing way. It's mesmerizing to look at, and to visually, when you look at it, to trace the lines, those undulating lines to the middle where they come together. During the initial selection process online, jurors, at least nowadays, will select the work through a digital image. And so often they are, 5 inches by 5 inches. So I didn't quite get the sense of the scale. And when I saw it, I was really surprised. And I was so glad that I could easily see and get lost in the complexity of the work, not only outside, but also inside. So congratulations. Really nice piece. The next piece is Megan Burak's Syrah. I awarded this with an honorable mention as well. It's so wonderfully painted that I thought it deserved recognition. The artist was able to capture the illusion of light, the effects seen through the lens of the photograph so extremely well. The artist undoubtedly captured the model's beauty as well as inner life. And I just want to say, as a figurative painter myself, I know how hard this is, and it's something I always struggle. And I also know that the more realism, at least that I achieve, the emptier and more overworked the piece can appear. And this piece certainly is not that. So congratulations. Good job. Richard Weiblinger, Blue Steady 8442. This piece was also very deceptive when I looked at it online. And as soon as I saw it on the wall, I knew that I needed to highlight this piece. I awarded it an honorable mention because I was drawn to its conflict between its quiet blue color and its aggressive and raw subject matter. They don't compete, they sort of work as kind of a conflict for me. And I was happy to see that it was framed white. If you've looked at the piece in the show, because it's framed white, it actually continues onto the wall. And so the gash in the photo carries its illusion into the gallery. So that's a striking piece. So congratulations. Split by Antonina Enaliva. This piece received a Juror's Choice Award, and I chose it for its contrast between the rough and broken and aged wooden girl and its small doll-like scale. The figure of the girl is split in 2, and she stands above a head of nails. The piece feels like an abandoned toy to me. For me, it represents the loss of innocence. It really resonated with me, especially in our currently divided climate. It's quite dynamic psychologically and speaks very loudly for its small scale. It is the size of a doll. So congratulations. Cindy Mayer, Dancing Rainbow. I awarded this a Juror's Choice Award. This is probably my favorite piece it is my favorite piece in the show. We should have put this in the end as a crescendo at the end. This is my favorite piece. Anyway, what I like about it is I see contrasts of color, perspective, texture, realism versus abstraction, organic versus architectural forms, and flat versus volumetric spaces. There's a lot going on in this piece. Is it a landscape, a still life, or a figurative painting is what I ask myself. It's none of these, but all of these combined at the same time. What I enjoy about Dancing Rainbow is how it's playful and asks me to question what painting is today. The artist bends genres and leaves the viewer with a lot to think about. I see Di Chierchio's surreal archways in the background. I see Magritte's bright blue sky and puffy clouds also in the background. This is all intertwined with elements of pop art and graffiti. And the piece is designed around a complex web of conflicting shapes, colors, and forms, but it still holds together, I think, and it's engaging to look at. So congratulations. Bruce Weston. Bruce Weston's Abstract number 61. This piece was also one of those deceptive. There were a number of moments, actually, when I went through the gallery that I can't impress upon you enough how surprising and actually how grateful I am to look at work in person versus digital. And this was one of the pieces I think that works so much better in real life. The surface of it, the wood surface, but also a lot of the texture. So this piece received a Juror's Choice Award for its use and transformation of the natural textures and rings of the wood into something new. I really enjoyed the figurative and psychological aspects of the piece. This could be a conversation between two people. This is one way I see it. I also see it as two sides cut from the same tree. And therefore, to me, it illustrates an internal conversation. The left and the right side are negotiating for dominance, but at an impasse in the middle. It's a well-crafted piece, and I see so many possibilities for further exploration of this idea. So well done. Congratulations. Snack Time by Susan Chower John. Snack Time was chosen for the way the artist took an iconic image and reimagined it with different textures of layered fabric and stitching. I was impressed by what the artist was able to achieve through what I assume to be an imposed limitation of the medium. You know, I'm a painter, and so I have plenty of time to work and rework. And I imagine with thread, it's very immediate. And so that's why I say that's how I view it, as being sort of a limitation. But on first glance, it appears drawn, it appears collaged with paper. But when you look at this piece closer, you'll notice the patterns and lines created by intricately drawn stitching. It's a wonderful play between realism and abstraction, I think. The viewer is simultaneously pulled into the subject's lifelike quality, but also its gestural play of the sewn lines. So this piece, you really have to see it in person and really look at all the patterns and textures. It's quite engaging. Extra Sprinkles, Deborah Kamalan. This piece I chose for a juror's choice because it was very playful. And I feel like we often in galleries, that's a sort of a underappreciated. A lot of art is very stressful. At least a lot of my work is. So kind of dark and moody. And it's great to see a piece that's whimsical and playful, experimental. And that's why I chose this piece. It uses a trompe-l'oeil effect, so a fool of the eye effect. It's well painted. It's a great play between sculpture, installation, and painting. The artist removed the painting off of the wall, for one thing, and then displayed it on a pedestal. This type of presentation is unique, and unique for the gallery as well, I think, as far as the show is concerned. And I found myself coming back to this piece again and again when I was awarding these works, was going back and studying how it was made. And I found it was really engaging to see the delicate treatment of the sprinkles, the icing, as well as the stressed out box. So you can see the creases in the box, and you can even see in this image here some of that happening. And there's also a shadow that the box is casting on the donuts. So great attention to detail. So congratulations.
If you have any comments or want to share a little bit about your work and how you came to come up with the ideas and maybe some of your methods, that would be fantastic.
I may have a question.
Absolutely, Scott. What is your question?
Mostly a technical one. Across the sands of time, being a ceramic 3D printed object, I'm curious if the artist is interested in sort of talking about what that looks like.
Yes, hi. Hi, Scott. Thank you so much for the question. Hello, everyone. The technologies that I'm using, that I developed in the past 4 or 5 years, is actually something that take the new technologies used for casting, but in reverse. So practically, I'm using what industry uses for metal casting. So the powder, the silica sand, or the ceramides, or other materials that are used to 3D print the mold for bronze casting. What they did in part for the cost was less expensive actually, and also for the material finishing. What I did was to, instead of using the negative part of the 3D printed mold, I printed the positive. I printed the model in silica sand, and there is a process that the model has to go through of infiltration, and also the finishing is actually metal, because it's like cold. Is practically the same mixture of resin and metal powder, so really fine metal powder. And so I ended up in developing the system and creating and testing it through the years. and it's giving me really good results in terms of both aesthetic properties, but also the mechanical characteristics. And as you probably know, is the silica sand printed is more or less similar to really poor materials in terms of mechanical characteristics, but when is infiltrated, is similar to concrete. And so I'm also planning to use the same technologies for even bigger sculptures, because the limitation of printing for these parts is practically, I think that the biggest printer is 4 meter by 2 meter by 1 meter. So maybe 16 feet by 10 feet by 5 feet by 2 feet. So the sculpture can be printed really big, but the main issue is to manage these massive printed parts and assemble them together and work with them. So I developed this technology because I found, I started and I'm still doing a lot of traditional sculpture, especially metal, forged steel, stainless steel. But when I started using new technologies and 3D printing especially, I found the limitation of size really sad.
Yeah.
And so I looked into more industrial printers that can expand the possibilities. And I started printing parts and assembling them together. And I ended up using these big printers that are actually really costly, because the biggest printer is around $2 million. And but it's something that the foundry right now, the artistic foundry even, they have and they are investing, is becoming part of the artistic process, mostly because even, for example, the conversion from a small maquette to a bigger model is going through this digital acquisition and modeling. And so I say, why not to use the real material of the printed part instead of going through the casting through bronze and then aluminum. So it's a complex process, but it's very interesting for the opportunities, not only for sculptural work, but also for architectural work, and can be used for decorative pieces for architecture, for example. And there are, I'm not the only one using this system, because there are a lot of companies that are developing it for also in the past couple of years for furniture, architectural elements. So, but it's quite interesting. I can talk. I'm also a professor, so I can talk about it for hours. but if you have any other questions, just you can also send me an email, and I'm happy to share the technique and the technology. It's quite interesting how technology can drive new aesthetic. And I see 3D printing right now, like in the 1800s when photography took over. And there were painters saying, for now painting is dead, because we can just take a photo and we can represent a subject without any issue. But actually, at that time, photography pushed new direction, cubism and futurism and so on. And so I think that 3D print is going to be that for sculpture.
Where do you teach?
I teach at UDC. I teach sculpture, ceramic, and digital imaging.
Yeah, I would say technology. Artists always used, I think all artists always use the technology on hand, right? So you use it to your advantage. You sort of like, it's this way of just experimenting and playing, trying out new avenues for creating. So that's cool. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I look forward to seeing all the work in person. I'm probably not going to make it to the gallery. I don't live near there, but I'll be there for the closing on the 28th. Are you going to go, Scott?
I have to see my schedule. I should be there.
I'd like to meet you. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and we hope to see a lot of you at our closing reception on the 28th. I really do think that this show is something that you need to see in person. So if you can't make it here beforehand, please do try and come on the 28th of January. It's pretty spectacular. All of your work is pretty spectacular. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, we have the MFA membership to thank for that.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So if there aren't any other comments or anything that people want to share with respect to the show, I'm going to go ahead and start pulling the names for our Melange exhibit. First, I want to say thank you, Scott, for all of your efforts in choosing the show and choosing the award. So thank you very much. And
Thank you for having me.
like I said, you don't have to stay for the Melange pull, but if you would like to, please do. I'm hoping that everybody can see I have people's names in here. I'm just going to go ahead and just start pulling. We're going to pull 24 names. These are the folks that will be invited to exhibit in Melange in March. We're doing 2 exhibitions. Both are 2 weeks long or just about 2 weeks long, and there will be a reception for each of them. And as I mentioned at the beginning, the Melange show is kind of our thank you to those dedicated members who volunteered their time, entered or donated to Collector's Choice, and entered a show in 2022. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just start pulling names. The first name is Patrice Drago. Marilyn Ujiansky is the second name. James Tan is the third. Got 2 stuck together. Stacy Lund Levy is the fourth. Chris Fowler is the fifth. Jane Knighton is the sixth. Gil Ujiansky is the seventh. Eva Carson is the eighth. Rich Hall is the ninth. Tracy Lambros is the 10th. Lemore Deckel is the 11th. Marissa Evangelista is the 12th. Nada Abizayed is the 13th. Deb Kamelin is the 14th. Julia Berzon is the 15th. Carol Tessier is the 16th. Richard Nieworth is the 17th. David Diaz is the 18th. Carol Cowie is the 19th. Jim Mackey is the 20th. James Ronayne is the 21st. Jen Sterling is the 22nd. Joe Dickey is the 23rd. And the final one is Emil Petruncio is the 24th. So a big thank you to all of the artists who did all of those 3 things for us in the last year. And definitely I will reach out to these 24 artists in the next week to start setting up the Melange exhibit. So thank you all very much for joining us. And again, like I said, I hope we see you on January 28th. The reception is held from 4 to 6. So thank you all and have a great Sunday.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.